Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Live, Laugh, Lore. My name is Emily, and I am one of your very mentally ill millennial co hosts here. I think we were going to introduce our astrology to you guys because I think that really does tell you everything you need to know about us. I am a Taurus sun, a Taurus moon, and a Sagittarius rising. So I am a very stable person in theory, but also not at all, and very chaotic. And you'll see probably more of that as we move along. Caroline, how are you today?
I'm Caroline. I am the other half of the host.
We are on different coasts.
I am the other coast host. I am a Gemini sun, Aries moon, and Capricorn rising.
I don't know shit about astrology, so people please correct me if I am wrong here. But based on your rising sign, you come across as though you have it together. And
You do.
You do come across that way. And I think you do generally have it together. But then on the inside, you peel back the layers and it's this chaotic mess inside. Am I wrong?
Thank you. That was a nice way to insult me. I was going to say that you're actually not crazy at all. But no, I wouldn't say I'm chaotic. I just have like
the voices.
I am chaotic. It's just like the strings aren't connected all the way in my brain. The synapses don't quite. I'm very smart, but I just...
you are one of the smartest, most intelligent people I've ever met. But pure chaos on the inside. And that is not an insult.
Yeah, I know.
It is a fun ride being your friend.
Yeah.
Whereas on my end, I feel like you meet me and the first thing that I do is trauma dump and overshare and overspeak in general. But on the inside, Taurus, baby, I'm very, supposedly stable.
She's so Taurus.
I am very
Taurus.
Yes. This couch behind me.
300 steps in a day.
Where I spend most of my time. It's very comfortable. I love it.
Yeah. So that's us.
Yes.
This is Live, Laugh, Lore. Emily, do you want to tell the audience?
Yes. So
a little bit about what we're going to do today?
Yeah. So Live, Laugh, Lore is our brainchild. We always love sharing spooky tales, different myths and legends and folklore from all over the world. Anything that we hear, whether we know it's true or not, we love to share. So we figured, how about we also share with other people and also do some research before we open our mouths and start talking about it. So we actually know a little bit more about what we're talking about and can give more detail on this. So yeah, that's the idea here. We love sharing spooky little stories. So hopefully you're here because you also love spooky little stories.
So we're going to tell you some stories about myths and legends and lore. And to decide who's going to go first, we are going to battle it out with rock, paper, scissors.
If we were in person, we could actually battle it out.
Yeah, I think you would win.
Thank you. I think I would too.
You're freakishly strong.
So rock, paper, scissors, is that what we're doing?
Shall we?
Okay, is it best?
Do we just do it one time
Let's do it one time. All right, great.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And I won. No, I didn't. You did after I put the thing.
No, I did not. No, the camera will tell.
All right. Yeah. That's fine.
You want to do it again?
We can
do it again.
No.
We can do it again.
No, I think we've wasted enough time.
Okay, I think so too. Okay, so when we were deciding what to talk about for our first episode, I think we kind of were trying to land on something that we had some sort of connection with, whether it was something that was our favorite mystery or legend, or maybe something that traumatized us in our early development as a person. For mine, I will be speaking on Bloody Mary, the legend, the potential origin stories, what the game variations might be that you might have heard of. I was terrified of Bloody Mary for most of my childhood because a very mean little boy on the playground told me all about Bloody Mary, and I was a wimp, and he knew that, and he knew that it would terrify me. And I had a mirror in my bedroom that scared the shit out of me as a child after learning this. And I was
it like facing your bed, or
I would make my mom cover it every single night because it scared me so badly. And if it like became uncovered at any point, like throughout the night or anything like that, I would convince myself like I had barely escaped death.
If we're being honest, there probably was something wrong with the mirror.
Okay, well, let's not dive into that
Like,
right now.
okay. I'm just saying, as a child, if you thought that, it was probably true.
Great. Okay, I just got full body chills. This is great. All right, I'm
Correct.
gonna start covering all my mirrors again. Okay. So, to kick things off, I do want to start off with going through the game, which looking online, there are a ton of different variations of what the different steps are for the game, but most of them have the same underlying themes. For me, the first step was to go into some sort of enclosed room with all the lights out,
Mhm.
no light whatsoever, with the
Yeah.
exception of one candle. Some of the variations
Mhm.
online are very specific about how many candles to use, but for me, it was a candle.
I think it was a candle for me as well.
Yes. This step I remember from my childhood, and I did see some validation of this online, but it's kind of a weird one. Turn on the sink just barely to where it's like slightly dripping. And the theory behind that
Mhm.
was that the last sound that she heard was the sound of tears. And so you wanted to lure her in with that,
So
which is horrible.
sad.
Yeah. Great. Again, I learned this from the meanest little boy on the playground. I hope he hears this.
Mm.
The next step was to get as close to the mirror as you could, over the counter, over the sink,
Mhm.
get as close as you can, which I think was just, again, to lure her in by being an easy target. And then chant Bloody Mary slowly into the mirror 3 times. Some variations
Are
have
you gonna
more
do
than
it for
that.
us?
No, fuck no, I'm not gonna do it. Were you listening to anything I
I
just said? I'm traumatized.
don't
Oh.
know. I think I would like to see it.
And then I added this step in because I was so scared. I would duck after saying Bloody Mary 3 times. I would, like, jump out of the way because the story I heard was that she comes out and she chops your head off. And
Yeah. That was yeah.
so did you ever play the game or did
Oh, this is
you
all coming back.
what were the steps for your version of the game?
I do remember my older cousin telling me that apparently she will chop your head off, which I like as a kid, that's violent. And you're like, oh,
I need
I mean,
that.
as like an adult, that's violent, but you're just like, as a child, you're just like, what the hell, man? I remember being pushed into the bathroom and then the door locked. And I don't know that we ever actually, because I tried it with 2 sets of cousins, but I don't think we ever actually got to the third thing. But we did bring a candle,
Mhm.
or we just did it completely in the dark, I think.
I mean, the goal is for it to be just light enough, I think, to where you can only really see your face in the mirror. I
Yes.
remember seeing this little girl in an ice cream shop, and this is where it all came to a head for me as a kid of like, "Oh my god, it's real."
Mhm.
There was this little girl and she had a Band-Aid horizontally across her neck, and she was otherwise fine, but I saw her and I pointed at her and I screamed and I was like, "Mom, she got her." And I started crying.
Bloody Mary got her.
My mom had to apologize to the girl and the family, and, like, they were, like, pushing me out of the store, but, I mean, that
Mhm.
yeah, that broke something in my brain, I think, but I hope the little
Yeah.
girl was fine. Hopefully, I didn't just re-traumatize her all over again for her neck injury.
Whatever happened to her neck? Honestly, why did she have a Band-Aid on her
That's what
neck?
I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Nobody told me.
Like,
Nobody explained.
I've never put a Band-Aid in
That
that
she didn't
location.
say that that's not what happened, so, for all we know.
I think one of my cousins, she would always like to kind of freak us out a little bit, and she did tell me that a girl at her school got her head chopped off by Bloody Mary. And I had no reason not to believe her
Right.
because I was like
Yeah.
4 and, but anyway, we're nice to be nice to kids, guys,
It stays with you.
because then they end up like
I'm
us.
31 years old and I'm still traumatized. Ah,
I still have to
for
cover
many
my
things,
mirrors.
that was only, like, the tip of the iceberg, but,
Mhm. Mhm.
it didn't help.
Yeah. No.
Anyways,
No.
so
Mhm.
again, the details of the Bloody Mary ritual, quote unquote, can vary, but the basic tenets usually remain the same. Some of them say that she'll come out of the mirror to scratch your face. Some say that she just will haunt you forever. Some of them even say that
Forever.
she'll, yeah, that's me. Wait, that is me.
I'm like,
Oh my
wait a
god.
second, is Bloody Mary like wronged by a man or something? And she's like,
Ooh.
I will. Like,
We're learning things.
are we just her Silver Springs? And she's like,
Maybe, maybe. There's even one theory that she will tell your fortune or tell you how to get your deepest desire, which if you've seen the American Horror Stories version, that is based on Bloody Mary. That's based on a folklore that I'll go into a little bit. But
oh, I
she
don't.
essentially will tell
Okay.
you what your deepest desire is and what you need to do in order to make that happen. And it's like a pact between
Mm,
her and the person looking in the mirror, and it's terrifying. Okay, so but depending on the story you believe, you might see blood on your mirror, your hair might turn white, you might just disappear altogether and be pulled into this portal. And then also the
mm-hmm.
chants do vary sometimes. I've only ever heard that you need to say Bloody Mary 3 times. Some say that you have to say, I believe in Bloody Mary, or there's even one that said, I killed your baby, Bloody Mary, which that one is very dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we said. We said it 3 times and then we said, I killed your.
Yes. So I'll tell you where that one comes from too. That
God.
one's real dark and also so fucked up for a kid to be saying in a mirror, but it's fine.
I honestly don't blame Bloody
I
Mary.
don't either.
I'm on her
If I had
side.
kids chanting at me all the time while I'm trying to rest behind a mirror,
Saying I killed your
like,
baby.
come on,
Yeah, I'd
yeah,
haunt you too. I'd
I'd be
chop off your
pissed.
head. No, I wouldn't. Don't hold me to that. The government's watching this.
Bloody Mary's watching this.
Maybe.
So when I first started looking into like when these rituals first started, I could not find a like unanimous decision on how long ago this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them say like the more modern versions of this ritual started around the 70s, which I think kind of makes sense. But there has
Yeah.
been different variations as far
Drugs.
as like trying to get someone to appear or get a vision to appear out of a mirror. And my favorite one that I read was a ritual that involved young women walking down a staircase backwards, holding a candle and a hand mirror. Notice that's both hands, so you're not holding onto a rail in a darkened house. So it has to be, again, dark with a candle and a mirror. So same kind of components there. The idea
I did that. I've done all of these.
at the same
Why
time.
did my cousins do this to me? No, like with different. No, I think my cousins just tried to freak us out.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh my God.
Well, the idea was that you would catch a glimpse of your future husband's face. And so this was from quite a while
Yeah.
ago that they would do this. But there was also a chance that they would see a skull or a vision of the Grim Reaper, essentially. And that was an indication that
Creepy.
you would die before you ever got married, which would be just the worst news for any woman, right? But
God, could you imagine?
what a travesty. I can hardly walk
What are
upstairs
you gonna
in
do?
a fully lit room with my hand on the handrail and holding nothing else. So if I were to
Mm-hmm.
even try the beginning part of this ritual, I think I would take myself out
Yep.
before the Grim Reaper even had a chance to tell me anything. But like self-fulfilling prophecy.
You will die before
You
you get
will
married because you're
because you're
walking
doing this
down
shit. But,
stairs
you know.
backwards. Yeah.
So where does the character Bloody Mary come from? There are
Tell me.
3 very popular theories. There's a bunch of theories out there, but there's 3 that I saw the most. 2 of which came from known historical figures. So they are actually real people that lived at one point in time.
Mm.
The most famous one is Queen Mary the First of England, also known as Mary
Yeah.
Tudor. And she was the daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. And her
Oof.
life was dramatic, to say the least. She very early on in her life, she was declared illegitimate and then later restored to the line of succession much, much later in her life. And she eventually took the throne after a lot of bumpy steps along the way and gained a notorious reputation for burning roughly 300 Protestants at the stake. This is essentially what earned her the nickname Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Without going into each and every detail there, essentially, if you don't know anything about Henry VIII, this girl has daddy issues. And I know this as someone who also has daddy issues. She has a
And
bad.
probably mommy issues because
Oh, absolutely.
she didn't have.
She didn't have one. Yeah. Yes.
What was Catherine? I can't remember if she was batted or not.
So no. So let me tell you.
Oh,
So
okay,
Henry VIII
okay.
and Catherine of Aragon was Henry VIII's first wife. They were together for over 20 plus years, actually, for quite some time.
Yes.
But Henry was obsessed with having a son. He wanted to continue the royal line with a son.
You can only do that with a man.
Exactly. And he had one daughter with Catherine that I could find online.
Mhm.
And while he was married to Catherine, one of Catherine's handmaidens was named Anne Boleyn, if you recognize that name. Henry went and
I
got
do.
her knocked up and decided, you know what is going to solve this? Catholicism is great and all, but it's really annoying because I can't divorce my wife to go and be with this woman who is now pregnant and maybe it's a boy. So I want to make
Mhm.
sure this is a legitimate son of mine. So he goes and creates the Protestant Church of England and
Yeah.
annuls his marriage with Catherine of Aragon. He then marries Anne Boleyn and essentially
Yep.
pushes Catherine out of the kingdom. Mary doesn't really see her ever again after that. Very
Mhm.
sad story. After that, Anne has a daughter. And so he goes and annuls that marriage as well. Anne's daughter is Elizabeth. And so Mary and Elizabeth are both deemed illegitimate because those marriages were annulled. He finally does get a son
Mhm.
later on. And that
Yeah.
son, when he dies, he goes and writes in his will that he wants the next, person in line, person to take over his throne to be Lady Jane Grey, which you might remember her
Oh.
as the 16-year-old queen who reigned for 9 days before she was executed. This all comes right back to Mary when Lady Jane Grey first took over the throne. She had essentially been rallying up people, the local, people against Lady Jane Grey over religious matters. Mary was Catholic.
Mhm.
And I think probably, again, going back to the daddy issues, because King Henry VIII was so sneaky in his roundabout ways with religion, using that as a reason to leave her mother, as well as other women, I would probably be salty against that church as well, personally.
Yep.
So, Lady Jane
Yep.
Grey, she had already stated she was a loud and proud Protestant. And so Mary said, I'm having none of that. And essentially, Lady Jane Grey eventually, along with her husband and her father, were executed for treason related to religion. And so that is also the reason behind a lot of Bloody Mary's murders, if you will, when she burned all of those Protestants at the stake. It's for religious reasons, once again. But again, daddy issues. Every source that I read on this, it kind of boiled it
Trauma,
back
a
down
lot of
to that
issues.
of her proving her legitimacy, her faith, really just having to
Yeah.
prove herself in general to a father who did not care at the end of the day. So,
Sounds like a lot of like inner turmoil
yes.
to feel the need to kill 300
You know,
people.
as were the
That's a
times,
lot.
as were the times. I did read something too, though, that said that she actually did not her during her reign of power, okay, she killed less people than most kings. So, but
Well, good for her.
double standard
A
on there. I don't really
true
know how to paint that as a good thing, but
a true
right.
feminist. I think it's just so wild that it was so normal to either like behead people or burn them. It was their form of
Yeah, there's
entertainment.
nothing else to do.
Because people, I don't know, they probably couldn't read for the most part. Like if
Not
you
if
were
you're a woman.
just
No.
not if you were a woman, but like just regular like villagers or like peasants, I guess, like they couldn't read. So they're like, what are we going to do today? Well, they're going to burn someone over at the Tower of London. So let's go hang
Back up the
out.
kids. Let's go.
Get the kids, bring the sweet gherkin martinis.
Put them in the bottle. We're gonna go.
Let's go, babe.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I mean that was their source of entertainment. It was either that or, following King Henry's footsteps once again, circling back to him.
Yeah.
He is rumored to have gone mad from syphilis because he had a penchant
Yeah,
for
that happens.
his affairs. He loved getting around. Not only did he love marrying multiple women,
He
he wanted to cheat on all those women as well. Just great guy.
he had a fun little chair that he liked to
The
use
love chair.
because he was so large.
Yes, he was. Yes. He was over 6 foot tall, which was very
Apparently,
tall for that time frame.
wasn't he like 300
Mhm.
pounds or something? And he like couldn't walk.
Yes, he was a binge eater. Yes, love it.
I watched this
Okay.
this like cooking show and they were remaking foods from like King Henry VIII, and one of the foods was a bone marrow pie.
Huh.
And it was like bone marrow and gelatin or something, and it was appetizing.
That sounds like something that would have been made in, like, the '50s, like, the 1950s. They put all that shit in
Right.
gelatin and
But it would have been called a
then
salad, a bone marrow salad in Jello.
written in cursive from grandma's cookbook.
Sweetie, you haven't eaten any of your bone marrow.
Ugh.
Anyway, so now we know why Mary killed. That's why they kill everyone. They're eating bone marrow pie. Like they didn't have
Things were
anything
not
else to
good.
do.
Things were not going
It
well.
was bad. It was
No.
bleak.
Ah, and they didn't have therapy back then. What was a girl to do? So, anyways, so that
They
that
did
was
not.
that's the most popular theory, especially since she was coined
Okay.
Bloody Mary. The next one, which I
Mhm.
did not know about this theory until I started looking into it for this podcast. The next one is a woman named Elizabeth Bathory. She's a Hungarian
It's a fun name.
noblewoman and alleged serial killer from the powerful House of Bathory. She was
Cool.
accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and young women. They said about potentially
Not cool.
300. She allegedly lured them into her home under the guise of hosting etiquette lessons, only to then imprison, mutilate, and kill her victims in various horrible, horrific ways. When she was eventually caught, people think
Mhm.
her servants were the ones who were put on public trial for the crimes, essentially being
Hmm.
called what we would now call as like accessories to murder, or
Yeah.
you know they
Like
saw them as
aided him.
participants in this, probably not willing participants, if I had
Yeah.
to guess. But
Maybe.
Elizabeth
No.
herself, she was actually imprisoned in her home, in her castle, in a room, and she was
Mhm.
kept there until she died of mysterious circumstances, apparently. The family essentially did not want to bring any more shame upon the name, the Bathory name. So they
Mhm.
kept everything under wraps on the down low. They hid her up in a castle.
Yeah.
They hid away all of the documents and the records for a long time. It wasn't until somewhat recently that things started to come back to life. Historians started to go back and look at the records. Even with all of that, though, the truth behind what all happened is kind of mystery. It's still a lot of hearsay from a long
Yeah.
time ago. So some people believe that she was a victim of essentially a political witch hunt, that essentially
Mm.
because she came from a powerful family in a kind of tumultuous time, this was
Yeah.
meant to bring shame on them. While others are convinced that the folklore is true, and she has, just like Bloody Mary, she was given a couple of names, Blood Countess and Queen of Blood being a couple of them, because there is
Great name.
exactly very cool. But also, she got those names because there's a claim that she bathed in the blood of virgins to retain her youth. I've seen pictures of her. She was very pretty, but I mean, I don't think that that's what it is. I don't think we need to be going and doing that. Get some tretinoin or whatever it's called and do that instead.
Sounds like
Yeah.
that sounds like if like it sounds like it's not good.
Sounds like it would cause more problems than
I was thinking like what
like
if you have an open wound or
yeah,
like some gets in your mouth
yeah,
and you're like tastes like
yeah.
I don't
There
know,
was a
or in your
theory too that
eye?
she was
How do you wipe your eye?
there was also a theory, this was not as prevalent, that she was somewhat of a vampire. So there was some theories that maybe there was some consumption of that
Uh,
happening, but
she sounds like she had a lot of things going on.
mhm. But one thing that I kind of loved was apparently when she was trapped inside of her room, she only lasted for a few months after that, which I mean, if you were to lock me in a
Because she
room,
didn't have any blood
well,
to bathe in.
wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
We're on to something.
We solved it.
It's all true. We figured it out.
She starved because she was a vampire.
I mean, but I
Mm.
mean, I'm not a vampire, and if you locked me up in my room alone with no source of entertainment for a few months, I'm out. I'm not making it.
I know.
There's no
Like,
way. Absolutely not. So, I
yeah.
mean, I get that.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, and then last but not least, this is my favorite. The next character, she is fictional, and she comes from
Okay.
a bunch of different stories, mostly from the States, the United States. She has an American name,
Mhm.
and that is Mary Worth. And Stories about her
Mm,
vary a lot about who she is, where she came from, what time period she's from, all of that. And it was interesting to see that different regions have different, like, very ingrained folklore about who Mary Worth is.
yeah.
One of the popular stories, and this goes back to the baby chant, is, and this comes from multiple regions too. I saw this in a lot of places, but they paint her as a grieving young woman who killed herself when her baby died mysteriously in her crib, which is very sad. And she
Oh,
ultimately killed herself in front of a mirror. And
yes.
now, if you turn on the water and chant the "I killed your baby," she will come out and she'll take matters into her own hands, which honestly, good for her. Because that's
She'll take
rude.
matters into her
Yeah,
own
that's
hands.
fucking rude. I'm sorry. Anyways, so don't do that. The next one, and this is what the
Res-
American Horror Stories episode is based off of, is
Mm,
about a woman who tortured runaway slaves outside of, like, the Chicago region as part of the Reverse
mhm.
Underground Railroad, which was an actual thing. I had not heard of this. Essentially luring slaves who were escaping through the Underground Railroad, luring them away from
Mhm.
that, saying, "Oh yeah, come here. It's safe. You're safe. You know, this
Yep.
is this is a safe place for you to be." And it was not. They would then return them back to where they came from and gain a profit from it. This woman eventually did get murdered by, allegedly, by some of the slaves that she took in. They caught on to what she was doing, and they again took matters into their own hands there. But yeah, there's more
Oh
on that
well.
in yeah. There's more on that story in the American Horror Stories episode, which I definitely recommend. It's very interesting. And then
Mhm.
the last one, or one of the last ones, was about a woman who was in a very violent car crash. She survived, but her face was deformed, and she was very ashamed, mortified, and, just could not bear to look at herself. And she did
Yeah.
kill herself in front of a mirror. And that is another common folklore behind who is this person that's coming through the mirror. The most popular one, though, is about Mary as a witch who was burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials. There is no evidence
Mhm.
that this person was a real person. There's no evidence that she wasn't a real person, but it is one of the more common popular versions of this.
Yeah.
So essentially, what the story is that Mary, this witch, this white witch, some would call her, lived deep in the forest, and she sold herbal remedies and tinctures to the local people for medicinal purposes. They would come to her if they had the flu or the plague or something. I don't know. They did fear her. She was this very mysterious single woman with no man, and that was terrifying back in the day. She was, running her own shit by herself in the woods. There was that piece of it. She also had just a very mysterious presence, and probably
She
was
sounds
not, if she
badass.
was real, she probably wasn't really that mysterious. She just probably was handling her shit and people didn't like that. But anyways,
She probably just like didn't speak.
yeah, she was probably just
Or
not
she did
polite.
speak.
Right. Or she did speak and they didn't like that.
Right.
Anyways, we're
Yeah.
adding our own flavor to that. But after some time, though, locals began to notice that many young children were disappearing throughout the village, the town. And they were noticing that whenever they did go and see Mary Worth, that her appearance was changing. Before, she was maybe considered more of an elderly woman. Now she was becoming more youthful. After some, or
She was bathing in the blood.
that's what was happening. It's the same person.
Oh.
No, no,
Oh.
no, no, that's not what was happening. But we're
Oh.
piecing
I
it
was like, I
together.
got it right. What?
No, 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 no. One night, a young girl essentially just walked right out of her home. Her mother was awake and watched her daughter just walk right out the door into the woods. And she was trying to get her
Mhm.
to come back, trying to wake her up. This girl was in a trance, just unbreakable trance, could not be awoken, essentially. Her mom followed her through the woods into the forest and found her daughter eventually being held in a sinister ritual by Mary. Mary was glowing and she was chanting. Very spooky scene
Oh.
altogether. When the townsfolk intervened, she was able to bring people back. They shot her with a silver bullet, which, why did they have a silver bullet ready? I don't know, but they did, thank goodness,
Just in case.
just in case. You never know. And So they were able to stop her. That did not kill her, but that did stop her. They burned her at the stake after that, but not before she cursed the town, vowing to haunt any child who dared to call her name. So she's out to get your children, essentially.
Ooh, quite spooky.
Quite spooky.
I
Those are
don't
the three most
know.
popular theories. I did want to mention one other theory that I saw that is not very common, but I read it
Okay.
and I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. So definitely my least favorite. Folklorist Alan Dundes suggests that the Bloody
The
Mary, the
Dundies.
Dundies, yeah, he gets a Dundee for being the dumbest. Anyways,
Mm,
you'll see. It's an
mm.
initiation ritual into womanhood. Can you guess why?
What is an initiation ritual?
The Bloody Mary game.
Oh, because I'm trying to think as stupid as I possibly can. I don't know.
So he thinks that because the
Why?
ritual revolves around blood appearing and often taking place in bathrooms with young girls on the brink of puberty, that this essentially is a ritual that signifies a girl's transition into womanhood. And that's where it all came from.
Okay.
Someone needs to ask Alan if he is okay, because that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. But
Pretty
whatever.
sure that
Just girls
is
being
it.
girls,
See,
Alan.
that
That's what
was
it
gonna be
is.
my guess. That was gonna be my guess, but I was like, there's no way.
There's
Like
no
someone
way.
could possibly.
No.
Oh, now I'm a woman because my
So,
gosh.
anyways, Alan,
Wow.
I'll just say this out loud
Just like that's
to a woman, and let's get her reaction, shall we? Let's peer review that before we go and post that on the internet, Alan. Anyways, so
that's
those are
concerning.
the theories behind it. Some historical, some not historical. One of them just
Yeah.
downright infuriating. So it kind of twists in a little bit of history, a little bit of folklore, a little bit of
Yeah.
everything. I did want
A
to
bit of spook.
loop in one of the possible rational explanations too as to why this happens that has nothing to do with
Mm.
witches or demons or
Yeah.
mentally ill women. So the Troxler effect was introduced back in 1804 by a philosopher named Paul Troxler, and it explains why people might see something demonic in the mirror when they do this very
Okay.
specific kind of ritual. He says that when you're focusing on a fixed point for too long, the brain starts to ignore the unimportant details around that fixed point,
Mm-hmm.
leading to possible hallucinations. If you stare at it for long enough, the brain starts to essentially, one person's
Like
memory
fill in.
really well. Yeah, your brain gets bored of the details that are not important to it and starts filling in
Yeah.
different things and hallucinates.
Like I do when I get anxiety.
I do it without even having to look at one thing. So
I don't look at
I
anything and
don't
my
look at
brain
anything,
does
it just
that.
happens.
I'm speculating.
There have been many experiments that have been played out just to see what people see, and maybe like, do
Mm.
demographics have an influence on it, age, anything like mental condition? It really doesn't. Everyone sees
Yeah.
something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's demonic or anything like that, but a lot of people, they compare the experience to something like LSD, like a very hallucinogenic kind of experiment or experience.
Mm.
um, and very, very interesting. So I recommend looking into the Troxler effect. There's a lot of cool stuff online and visuals where you can try things out yourself. And I did, and I saw not anything
I'm
weird, but
scared.
just I did see things start to disappear and things that were not in the picture show
Yeah.
up. So yeah, very cool stuff to look into.
Hmm.
I would
Less
recommend
spooky, but
don't do that in the dark in front of a mirror because it could be real, guys. I don't know. Could be
yeah, like
could be right around the corner,
the
guys.
mirror could eat me.
I don't know.
Like if you
Look, so who knows? Either way, if it's real or
fun.
not, terrifying experience. 0 out of 10. I do not recommend.
It's still scary. So I like the psychology portion of that. Like I totally get because I feel like when you're in the bathroom or in any room in the dark, so like I'm afraid of the dark, right? Like I've always been afraid of the dark and like I see things that are not there.
Mhm.
And it's not like a hallucinate, but it's like my mind's playing tricks. I mean, that's what my mom always just says. She's like, your mind's
Yes.
playing tricks on you.
which is rude.
So if I'm in there already like heightened
Mhm.
with one candle looking into the mirror,
Yeah.
I'll probably see something.
Oh, yeah. No, you're gonna see something. Mhm. And
Yeah.
you might come out like that girl with the
So,
Band-Aid, or not at all. So,
or or not at
honestly,
all.
thoughts go out to that girl. I don't know where she is now, but
Maybe it was like a cat, you know?
I probably
Hopefully.
traumatized her more than anything else, but
She's probably so embarrassed.
I was
She
unintentionally a
probably
mean
like
girl.
got like, yeah,
I was
but you were
concerned.
just like concerned
I was like, "There is a
about her
conspiracy.
like
You guys are not telling me. There's the evidence is right in front of us. Wake up.
there's something they're not telling us.
It's
There's
here."
a there's a colonial woman on the wing. Well, that's very fun. Thank you for bringing that memory back because I honestly forgot so much of that until you
Of
said that. And
course.
now I'm having flashbacks of being
Yes.
pushed into a bathroom with the lights and me like, "Ugh."
Now
And then
I'm
my
having
sister
flashbacks
cried.
of
And then
my haunted mirror. Thank you for that. That's great.
I chose for my first one the Headless Horseman,
Ooh.
which I also feel like I was mildly traumatized by this. I think like Bloody Mary was my first encounter with lore, like, spooky things. But the Headless Horseman was my first like real experience. I actually saw him. I did. I've met him.
He was my first
Um,
love, actually.
he was my first.
Never could tell what he was
Well, as
thinking.
we get in, he didn't speak. He can't talk, so maybe I would.
Fantastic.
Man of my dreams, he doesn't talk. Okay. Anyway, so growing up, we always went to Busch Gardens for Halloween. And this started at, I think I was 6 years old. And Busch Gardens sponsor me, but it is the best theme park ever. And they do this thing every year during Halloween called Hellas Scream. They do a great job, but they have a train going through the park. And during the Hellas Scream Halloween event, you can get on the train and get chased by the Headless Horseman. So we did this. I'm 6, my sister's like 4, and my dad plops me on the outside of the bench, like the end of the bench, right at the end of the train. And I see the Headless Horseman come galloping up beside us. And of course, my dad's like, he's going to get you. He's going to get you. And like pretends to be like pushing me out of the train like any dad would. I hope. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe people are going to be like, your dad sounds horrible,
This is
but
reminiscent of
it
Henry
was all
VIII
fun and
all over
games.
again.
It was all fun and he was just playing. But I do think I like kind of remember either me or my sister starting to cry because we were so scared.
Well, yeah, your father was
Uh,
sacrificing you to a man on a horse with no head.
it's also funny because like Alice Scream, they rate things like the scary scale is rated by pumpkins. So if it's like 5 pumpkins, it was really scary. This was like 4 pumpkins. So like not that scary. But for a
Is it out of
child,
5?
yeah, 4 to 5.
That's
So this was like
that's
4.
scary. That scale seems messed up, but whatever.
It was really scary as a
Yeah.
child. And I was like, but then I think after I was like, that was cool. And then that was my introduction to the Headless Horseman.
Love that. Love that.
It is considered to be one of America's first ghost stories, but its origins do go back almost to the Middle Ages. And the original story was, in the American version, was the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which we all know and heard of. So the Legend of Sleepy Hollow was written in 1820 by Washington Irving. His inspiration was taken from a poem called The Chase by Sir Walter Scott, which was a rough translation of the German poem The Wild Huntsman, which was based in Norse mythology. But Washington Irving and Sir Walter Scott were apparently really close friends, so he was probably influenced by this. But the original poem was about a wicked hunter who was the keeper of the forest, and he was super mean. He mistreated his fellow hunters and he got addicted to the hunt. And so God came down to test him and he failed. And as punishment, he was doomed to a life of being haunted forever by the devil and the dogs of hell.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. You said this is from Norse mythology?
So the Wild Huntsman was based on Norse mythology, and that was
Got
the
it.
German poem. And then Sir Walter Scott's The Chase was a translation of that. So that was like kind of the original story. And then Sleepy Hollow was written, and this was in like 1820. So this was the first real story of the Headless Horseman. So it takes place in a New York village, Sleepy Hollow, of course. It's about a man named Ichabod Crane who he loves witchcraft. He's a firm believer in witchcraft and like supernatural. And as he spends more time in Sleepy Hollow, his belief starts to deepen. And in the evening, he goes to visit the old women in the village to listen to their ghost stories.
What were they?
And their spooky tales.
What were they, like 30 years?
Probably they were like 30. They were probably our age.
Yeah.
So he, after, he talks to the older women and hears all the stories, he goes home and he is a little bit of a baby, as am I. So he is afraid of the dark, just like me. And he gets spooked pretty easily, just like me.
Feels very connected.
But one of his favorite stories, I think I love Ichabod Crane.
Okay.
You'll understand in a minute. So one of his favorite stories was the Headless Horseman. So in the book, they describe the Headless Horseman, which was believed to be a ghost of a soldier who was in the Revolutionary War. And he was decapitated by a cannonball, which is violent.
Also, why
Probably
is that
didn't hurt
kind of
that
funny
much
to me?
Like, what a way to go. Just like
out of nowhere.
Honestly, I think this story is kind of funny. It's like it gets funnier.
Oh my God.
So anyway, it's not funny to be killed in battle, but
No,
we
absolutely not.
Hold on, let me clarify. But just that image, and
yeah.
then he's
Just
a
him
horse
standing there.
I don't know.
Cannonball comes flying in out of frame, knocks it right off. Funny.
Yeah.
Humor.
It's like that scene from like Friends, when Phoebe's the nurse. She's like, I need more gauze, and then her arm just falls off. So the Headless Horseman is said to ride through Sleepy Hollow on his steed at night, as if reenacting the battle that took his life. Once day breaks, he returns to the churchyard where he's buried. So this part is fairly important. So when he returns to the churchyard, there's a bridge that goes into the churchyard. And it's said that when he crosses this bridge, he is engulfed in flames and he disappears. So he's not able to like physically go back in. He just spontaneously combusts.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cool.
This whole story is metal. You stole my line. Anyway, so
say it and I'll just cut out what I just said.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
You already said it.
Okay. Good, because I don't know if I know how to do
it gets
that.
more metal, baby.
Okay.
It gets more metal. So Ichabod is trying to court this woman named Catherine von Tassel, which sounds like Dita Von Teese. So she sounds spicy and fun.
My nipple just got hurt.
Catherine von Tassel. So she's also being courted by a Dutchman named Bram Bones, who is described as a very masculine man, a hunk, if you will. I'm thinking like Gaston from Belle. Like that's who I'm picturing.
Okay.
And meanwhile, Ichabod is described as a very tall, thin, lanky man. And he is said to have a flat head and a long beak-like nose. Now, except for the flat head and the beaky nose, he sounds like my type.
I was literally just about to say that is your dream man, and I would say even with the flat head and the beak nose, I think that would add.
Okay, I've never dated anyone with a flat head. I don't even know what that means.
I don't know, but
like this part or this part. Like,
see, I'm picturing Adam Driver, who I think is very hot, by the way, but that man has a schnoz, and I think he's so attractive.
It's a good nose.
It's a good nose.
He's ugly hot.
Yeah.
Like Ichabod sounds ugly hot. I'm into it.
Yes. And he talks to women. elderly women in their 30s,
And he listens,
and he listens to them,
and he's a little
and
scared.
he's a little scared of
He's
the
a little
dark.
scared.
Ichabod.
So he's in love with Catherine von Tassel,
So am
and one
I.
night they all go to this party, and they actually end up dancing together, which sends Brom Bones into a blind rage because he's insecure.
He has a little nose.
And and a round head.
And we hate it.
And I hate that.
We women hate that.
Don't talk to me unless you got a square head. Anyway, so after they dance, they all start talking about ghost stories because Ichabod has a fascination with this. And of course, he brings up the Headless Horseman. And Brom Bones is like, oh, yeah, you know, like I saw him one time and we raced. And yeah, I would have won if the horseman hadn't disappeared in a flash of fire on the church bridge. But I would have beat him.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, Brom.
Right.
After all that, after that display of masculinity, Catherine rejects Ichabod and is like, I only dance with you to make Brom jealous. So Ichabod rides home. And of course, he's a little scared because it's dark and it's nighttime. And he just talked about the Headless Horseman.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's riding on his horse, he sees a figure come up on a horse beside him. And so he slows his pace down to let him pass, but he does not pass. And so he turns to look at the figure and realizes it is a man without a head, which would be terrifying.
I wouldn't like that.
Terrified, Ichabod kicks his horse to go faster, and eventually he sees the church bridge. As he starts to pass this, he thinks he's in the clear. He turns and looks and sees that the headless man is still following him and has not been engulfed in flames. And the figure, the Headless Horseman, chucks his head, yeets his head at Ichabod, and he falls off his horse.
So
the next day,
hold on. Hold on. So
I'm so serious. I did not write those.
This Headless Horseman character, this fellow, he carries his head around with him like a purse.
He does.
Okay.
It's important.
So
like, this is the thing I don't understand. It's like, why are you carrying it around? Like, put it back on. And then you're just chucking it at people.
Right.
Put it back. Keep it.
Don't act like this is important to you if you're throwing it around at people. And also, I'm sorry, if your head got blown off by a cannonball, there would be nothing left of that head. That would be mush.
That's true.
50 feet away or more.
Yeah, that would be. I'm not gone.
I'm not a a war physicist or anything. I don't know how that all works, but I would assume
a war physicist is that real?
One who studies the physics of war. It's real now. I don't know.
that should be a real job. This man does carry his head around. He sounds like he has bigger problems, but this is what he chooses to do. So the next day, Ichabod is nowhere to be seen. But at the church bridge, they find a hat that belonged to Ichabod and a pumpkin that was smashed. So the townspeople don't know. Some people think that it was the Headless Horseman or it was Brom Bones chucking a pumpkin at him. But we don't know what happened to Ichabod. And then after that, 200 years later, the band The Smashing Pumpkins was created and wrote some of the best music ever.
Oh my God. So Ichabod, thank you for your service.
So that's the story of where it started in America. And, the story is interesting and it actually makes me want to read this Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but it's not that scary, right? But because it's been taken, like the origins are back in medieval times, there's so many different versions of this. Mm-hmm. So my favorite one that I found was, and I'm going to mispronounce everything in this story because it's Gaelic, I'm pretty sure. So this creature is called the Dullahan. And I looked it up on how to pronounce it, so I hope that I'm getting it right. But if I'm not, I'm sorry. It's a creature in Irish mythology. And this started around like the 5th century, but its origins are unknown, but this is what it's believed to be based off of. It's an incarnation of one of the Celtic gods the Celtic god's name was Crom Dubh.
Okay.
Dubh.
Doob.
CROMDUBHM. Crom Dubh. Anyway.
Sounded beautiful.
He's associated with death and the underworld, and he is said to seek out humans who are very close to death, and he escorts them to the underworld. So kind of like Charon in Greek mythology, who brings you across the river Styx.
Yeah.
Also a great band. But he is angry. Like, he is an evil deity.
Girl saying.
He's not like just taking you, he's seeking. So
why was that
an ancient king.
that sounded kind of hot. He is not only taking you, he is seeking you. Just me?
I wish.
Okay.
So there was a king during the 5th century named King Tigard. He was known for worshiping this god, and so he made a bunch of human sacrifices in the form of decapitation. So once the Christian missionaries came over, so this happened, I think, like long after this king was gone. They just continued the sacrifices because they needed to give it to the god. And then Christian missionaries came to Ireland in the 6th century and were like, stop. That's enough of the human sacrifices. I think you're good. So once the sacrifices stopped for good, God Crom Dubh decided to take matters into his own hands, and he comes to Earth and takes form as the Headless Horseman, or the Dullahan. So he's said to ride. Yeah, so he comes down essentially because he's like, I'm hungry, and I'm gonna take. I'm killing it with these euphemisms. He's said to ride a black steed. He also holds his head in his hands.
Okay.
Like a baby.
Okay.
And he uses his spine as a whip, which is metal.
Wait.
That's badass.
Okay, wait. That is very badass. What is holding his torso up?
Girl, he doesn't have a head and he's riding a horse. I don't think we need to figure.
Fair enough.
So if you stumble upon the figure, he will hunt you down before proceeding to go take the life that he originally came to Earth to take. So if he came to Earth because you were close to death and he's like, time to take Emily, but then he saw me, he would take me first before killing you.
So he's an equal opportunity.
But there are
evil.
He doesn't discriminate.
Yeah, love that.
No, he doesn't care. Yeah. He just, he likes what he sees and he goes after it.
We'll get it where we can. Got it.
Yes. Respect. Once he speaks your name, so if he sees you, he will speak your name, you're marked for death and nothing can stop him. But if you are one of the people that he sees that he wasn't originally intending to kill, and you have a gold coin in your pocket, which I don't have mine. I think they're at my parents' house.
Oh no.
Wait,
we're giving
those are
where does one get a gold coin?
The Sacagawea. The Sacagawea coins. That was what the tooth fairy gave us. I actually do have a lot of them.
We got a different tooth fairy.
What did you get?
Like a $5 bill.
Oh, well, that's better than a dollar coin.
Before anyone says anything, most of the time that was because the tooth fairy would forget to come on the right night. And then I would be heartbroken.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I would get a $5 bill mysteriously like 2 days later. So yeah. I even made furniture from my tooth fairy. And she still forgot to go.
God, Emily, that's really sad.
Anyways.
Okay, anyway, we're going to move on for that. So if you carry a gold coin or you have like a gold piece of jewelry, it will scare the Dullahan away. Okay. But this is only if you were not what he was originally coming for.
Got it.
So There are actually a couple accounts from that I found on the internet. And the first one is from a man who lived in Galway, which I've actually been there. So that's kind of scary. But they said a man was on his way home one night between Roundstone and Ballyconnolly. It was getting dark, and all of a sudden he heard the sound of the horse's hooves pounding along the road behind him. Looking around, he saw the Dullahan on his charger hurtling towards him at a fair speed. With a loud shout, he made to run, but the thing came after him, gaining on him all the time. This is like how it was written, so maybe this was a long time ago.
Okay.
In truth, it would have overtaken him and carried him away had he not dropped a gold-headed pin from the folds on his shirt on the road behind him. There was a roar in the arise above him, and when he looked, the Dullahan was gone.
Oh my.
And then there's another one from the County Down by writer W.J. Fitzpatrick, who claimed that he saw the creature. And I was thinking about, doing my best Irish accent, but I think I shouldn't.
I think maybe not. I have heard it. I have heard it before. I've heard you do it before. It is very good, but maybe let's not do that.
I'm not going to do it. But maybe one day. I'm going to keep practicing. I'll get better. He said, I seen the Dullahan myself stopping on the brow of the hill between Bryansford and Moneyscalp late one evening, just as the sun was setting. It was completely headless, but it held its own head in its hands, and I heard it call it a name. I put my hand across my ears in case the name was my own, so I couldn't hear what it said. When I looked again, it was gone, but shortly afterwards, there was a bad car accident on that very hill, and a young man was killed. It had been his name that the Dullahan was calling.
Oh my.
Scary.
Also, okay, once again, I don't know what is wrong with me, but part of me is like, oh my God, he knows my name. Like, he's calling my name.
Oh.
Like, how special?
I don't know.
He came all the way down.
That sounds like something you should... You should bring that up in therapy next week, probably. Oh my God, could you imagine going to therapy and saying that?
Yeah, I could. I've said worse. Worse things.
Oh, okay.
Like the Tooth Fairy story.
The Tooth Fairy story. You're like, I built it. Oh, man, he didn't come. Oh, God.
Yep. Therapists start shaking when they see me coming. Not really.
Anyway, that's the story of the Headless Horseman. Now, no one in them. I couldn't find like any people in Sleepy Hollow being like, I've seen the Headless Horseman. I think it's a little bit far-fetched to actually see him, but the Dullahan sounds real, and that would be something that I would be afraid of.
So is that only something that happens if you are in Ireland? He only seeks out people within the Irish
as far as
borders?
I know.
Okay.
As far as I know, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. He could come hang out over here, and I'm sure the people in South Carolina would just be like,
what the heck?
That's fine.
I think he would step one foot in Phoenix, Arizona, where I am, and be like, never mind. She's going to die here. We're just going to let her.
I don't
think I
have any gold.
I don't have any real gold.
Coins,
I mean, who has the time?
I can't locate my coins. It took me a long time to acquire them.
I mean, that's a lot of teeth.
But today I do have a headless figure. And I think Edgar knew on some level that we were going to be talking about this. So he knocked over my figurine and beheaded my cat is Dullahan.
Your cat, I was just about to say, Edgar, he presents as a cat. He is not a cat. He is a primordial being.
But yes, that is my tale for the day.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you everybody for listening to us ramble. This is our very first recording, very first episode. So it'll only get better from here.
If you can't tell.
Yeah, it'll only go up from here. We have a lot of ideas in store for future episodes, and we would love suggestions as well. So if anybody has any ideas, we would love to hear it. But
all one of you who is listening, let me know.
All one of you.
Let us know,
Mom,
what you'd like to hear.
Please let me know.
Mom, I don't even know if my mom will listen to this.
She'll be like,
that's too scary.
This is too scary.
She doesn't.
Also,
Juice. That's too
if my
scary.
mom hears me lust over the Dullahan, I think I'll kill myself. So let's mom, don't listen to this. Or mine.
I think our first listener will be Alex.
Shout out to
But
Alex.
we'll see if she listens.
Love that.
It probably will be.
Yeah. By the time we post this, also, we will have our social media up to date.
Yes.
And so in the notes, we will post where to go to see all of that. But yeah,
Yep.
with that, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you
Bye.
later. Okay, bye.
I'll
Cue the
talk to you
music.
later. Okay, bye.